5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Made by Bernie Beats.
Lifting off, I'm going higher and higher. Calling me on every beat, this shit murder for hire. Saying, Mr. remember to kill him softly. Climbing up this hill.
What's up everyone, it's Eric. Welcome to today's video. If you're new to the channel, welcome. I'm a medical student here in Canada, and today we're going to be talking about how to stop procrastinating. And I'm going to share some tips with you about what I do in university to manage my time effectively and be more productive. Since we're talking about time management here, I'm not going to waste your time, so let's get right into the first tip. Usually procrastinating leads to a buildup of things we have to do, and just thinking about everything you need to finish can make anyone really stressed out. Then when we're stressed out, we don't do anything, and then we get more stressed out, and then we don't do anything again. It's a really vicious cycle. My advice is to just breathe. You're going to be okay. You've already finished the first step. You've acknowledged everything you have to do, and that's a big realization. Now you just have to start and formulate a plan of attack. You can either start with what's due first or what's worth the most. But the most important thing is that you just start. For example, you guys know that I had just written the MCAT last year, and studying for a big test like that can be really overwhelming. My advice to you is to break big goals into small, manageable tasks. I tried to choose a reference material like Kaplan and a practice resource like UWorld, and then I decided how many questions I wanted to do each week and how much of the reference material I would cover each week. That way I knew exactly what I wanted to do each day, and I didn't waste any time trying to figure out what to do. One of the benefits about having smaller tasks like that is that it's quantifiable. When you put it on your to-do list and then you finish it and get to check it off, just doing that makes you feel really good, and you get a really big sense of accomplishment. On the other hand, if you don't have that to-do list of smaller tasks, sometimes it can feel like you're just wandering around aimlessly and you don't really know what you're doing because there isn't a goal in mind. As a result, it's a lot easier to get distracted. Additionally, I find that for me, setting a deadline for myself really helps me get a lot more work done. If I know that there's a time pressure to finish this thing before it's due, I'm a lot more motivated to do it. For example, I've had this YouTube channel for a few months now, and I upload every Wednesday at 9 a.m. sharp. Sometimes I'm a little bit late or a little bit early, but I try to make sure it's around 9 a.m. as much as I can. Having that deadline really gives me a time limit on how much I can work on each video, and I find that more often than not, it's better to just be done than to be perfect. My next tip for you is to get off your phone. Yes, I love scrolling through Instagram and Twitter and TikTok endlessly for hours on end, as much as anyone else when I'm bored. But what phones really do is distract you from all the work that you actually need to get done. My tip for you is that when you do get to work, put on that do not disturb, turn off your notifications, and leave your phone in another room. Even better, if you're going out to the library, don't even bring your phone with you. If you can't leave your phone because of your job or because of personal reasons, you can always set that only certain people can contact you when you're in do not disturb mode. Taking a step back from my phone was a huge thing for me in my MCAT, and you'd be surprised how many times you instinctively look at your phone to distract you. Another way you can prevent your mind from wandering is to get into the right mindset. Kind of like how athletes have that pre-game ritual where they do the same set of movements before the big game. Something that works for me is having a constant study or a workspace. For example, I do most of my studying at this desk, and when I study at the library, I usually find the same spot to minimize having to adjust to a new environment each time, so I can study better and focus more and get more done. My next tip is honestly to schedule everything using a calendar. I personally use Google Calendar, and it was something I picked up in university, and I noticed that I was super productive when I started scheduling things in at the beginning of the day. So usually what I do is I'll wake up, I'll open my laptop, pull up my calendar, and then I'll schedule in all the things I want to do for that day. If you're like me, you probably are going to underestimate how long it takes you to do a task. You might only schedule it for 1 hour, but it ends up taking you 2 or 3. So plan more time for your task than you think you'll need. For example, if I'm preparing for a class and I think that'll take me 2 hours, I'll actually schedule it for 3, and in case something happens, I'll still have plenty of time to study. So my next tip is pretty obvious, but if you have a large task or future project, start chipping away at it as soon as you can, way before your deadline. I know a lot of us see a deadline and think, wow, that's so far away, I don't need to worry about it. And then suddenly it's 4 hours before it's due and your last 3 brain cells are scrambling to figure out how to write that essay. Because procrastinating is literally leaving things until the last moment, it makes a ton of sense that to stop procrastinating, you have to start way before. So it may sound obvious, but I'm going to talk about why doing things ahead of time feels amazing. So the first reason is when you're doing your work and you're doing it way in advance of your deadline, you're not stressed at all about it. You're not stressed because your deadline isn't in a few hours, and you have plenty of time to be able to put your best work into it and to make something that you're proud of. The second reason is that if you chip away at your project little by little, you just don't have to do as much work at one time. For example, let's say you have a project due tomorrow or a paper that you have to write that will take 10 hours to work on total. If you start the night before, then yeah, you have to sit down for 10 hours to pump out that essay or finish up that project. If you're procrastinating and cramming, you just don't have the time to take breaks, and you're going to be tired, and it's really hard to sit down and study for 10 hours straight. Take it from someone who knows. But if you do a little bit each and every day, you only have to spend like an hour, let's say, if you're doing it over the course of 10 days before your deadline. And that's a lot more manageable than sitting down and cranking something out for 10 hours straight. So again, the 2 points here are that when you stop procrastinating and start working on things earlier, you're a lot less stressed and you don't have to work as hard. My next tip for you is to only focus on one thing at a time. It's okay to be working on a lot of projects at the same time, but while you're working, you should be focusing on a single task. It's easy to lose interest halfway through one task and jump into another, but then you end up with a bunch of tasks that aren't even finished. Something that really helps me is using the Pomodoro technique. The Pomodoro technique gives you 25 minutes to make as much progress on a task as possible. I have a study with me video that revolves around the Pomodoro technique, so if you're looking for someone to work with and study with, get started by clicking this video up here. The last thing I want to say about focusing on one task at a time is procrastination theory. That's at least what I've dubbed it. It's essentially procrastinating one productive task with another productive task. For example, let's say you have a project and a paper coming up. If you're working on the paper and you're just not really feeling writing anymore, you might want to procrastinate. Instead of getting on your phone and doing something that will cause you a lot of stress down the line, you could procrastinate by working on your project. That way, you're still working on one task and making sure you're focused, but you're also getting meaningful work done on something else that you need to do. My next tip is to don't stop working if you're feeling productive. Sometimes it's really hard to get that feeling of productivity back. And I consider myself a productive person, but I'm not always feeling productive. And when I do feel productive, I try to make sure to take advantage of that as much as possible and to crank out as much work as I can. And finally, my last point is kind of more like a time management tip, but basically you want to save your easiest tasks for the very end. So going back to the original concept of doing work when you're feeling productive, you want to make sure that you're starting off by doing the hardest things first, and then you want to save the easiest tasks for later. This was huge for me in college because I don't always feel productive all the time, 24/7. And so even when I'm not feeling productive, I can kind of be productive in a sense by doing things that take a little bit less mental energy and less focus. So to give you an example, let's say I'm studying for a test. I've been studying for 3 hours or so, and now I'm losing focus. I'm getting a bit tired, my eyes are glazing over, and I just can't really stay awake anymore. What I'll do is I'll say, okay, Eric, I'll just revisit this later when I'm more focused, more alert, and feeling more productive. And right now, I'll just go to the gym. And something like going to the gym doesn't take a whole lot of focus necessarily. You kind of just have to get up, go through the motions at the gym. It doesn't really require a lot of mental energy. So tasks like that are really easy to do, like going to the gym or doing some laundry or cleaning my room, are things that I kind of leave until I'm not feeling very productive or focused. And basically the benefit of that is that when you're feeling unproductive, you know you're losing focus, you can still kind of be productive by doing these low mental energy tasks, which are technically productive. You know, going to the gym, doing laundry is technically productive, it's just an easier task. So if you save them all until the end, you can be productive when you're feeling unproductive. So those are basically all the tips that I have and some of the things that I'm doing in university to manage my time better and stop procrastinating at least as much. And finally, I want to give a shout out to a YouTuber that I watched. His name is Elliot Choi. I want you guys to remember how valuable time really is. It's kind of like money in that it's an asset, but it's even more valuable. The way Elliot describes it is that with money, you can spend it and then you can make more money in the future. But with your time, once you use it up, you're not getting it back, at least not in the same way that you had it before. And so make sure you value your time. Make sure you respect it and use it effectively. And hopefully this video was a good use of your time to help you learn more about how I manage my time in university and help you avoid procrastination. If you guys enjoyed the video, please drop a like and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos about productivity as well as what it's like in medical school. As usual, that's been your daily dose of Medi Sun, and I'll see you in the next video.